All right, so I just finished breaking this down in a client group call that I thought was super valuable, so I'm going to share it with you guys. But this is the exact 4-step process that I would do to go from absolute beginner at 0 all the way up to 20,000 a month, or you can even go even higher than that with your content business. Now, this is assuming that you're starting from absolute scratch, that you have no client results, no case studies, no real portfolio, and have never really worked with a client in the space that you're trying to get in before. So we're going to kind of take it A to Z and do a big flyover. So first step of the 4-step process is something that so many people kind of miss out on, and that is that they just don't have a compelling offer. Now, a lot of people kind of enter this space and they see that the deliverable is photography, or it's video, or it's UGC, or it's something like that, right? So they just assume that the offer should be, I can take photos, or I'll create some UGC content for you. And although that does kind of make sense, it's actually what's probably keeping you stuck right now, because your offer needs to be something much better than that. Because if we're being honest, so many people have phones, so many people have access to cameras, and that's probably why you're getting price shopped, because there's a lot of talented people out there. So how do we make a more compelling offer? Well, there's actually 3 stages to your offer that you need to make sure that you have dialed in. The first thing that you need to have is a defined niche, okay? Now, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of push out there that they're like, you're the niche, don't box yourself in, and all this kind of stuff. And I even talk to creators every day that are like, oh, I don't want to box myself in. I shoot with all kinds of different clients, which sounds enticing, but in reality, when a client wants to work with you, they don't actually know what you specialize in, because you shoot all kinds of different stuff. So that's why picking a niche is very important. But like, even myself, I work with a lot of like travel niche photographers, but even within that niche, there's a lot of sub niches. So let's just break it down. So like, if it's the travel niche, right? You have like hotels over here, okay? And then you have like e-com brands. So that would be any kind of, consumable, any kind of wearable, any kind of like apparel, right? It could be bags, backpacks, all kinds of stuff like that, right? You have like travel apps. There's all kinds of different sub niches within travel that you can kind of go after, right? That have different pain points, and we'll get into that in just a second. But even we can break this down even more. So like, say it's a hotels here, right? So within hotels, you have like boutique luxury where they have like 10 rooms, right? And then you have the big box resorts where it's like, a big Marriott that has like 400 rooms, right? And then you have, adults all inclusive. You have ones that are more geared towards kids. You have ones that are 5-star luxury that you're spending $2,500 a night, and you have ones that are like $300 a night. And then you have seasonal versus not. And so you have all these different sub niches that you kind of have to think through, because they have different pain points, which brings me to the second part of your offer, which is you need to understand what the outcome is, okay? What are we actually trying to achieve, or what is the client actually going to get as a result of working with us? Now, this outcome can actually be broken down into 2 kind of subcategories as well. So the first thing would be, what's the pain point? Like, what is the reason that they would even be interested in working with somebody like you in the first place, or potentially some other marketing agency, an SEO company, literally anybody, right? So what's the pain? And then secondly, what is their dream outcome? What are they actually trying to do? Or another way of saying that is, what is the result? Okay. So after working with you, what is like the ideal outcome? And if the answer is they get UGC content, well, that's not a great outcome, right? It's not super compelling, which is probably why you're getting a lot of free trades, or just people that aren't interested in paying. So what we need to do is figure out what the difference between this pain and the results are, and where this arrow is here is what I like to consider the gap, okay? And that's actually what our content is solving for. So when you start to think about your offer, you got to think about, what are all these things standing in between, right here on this arrow, between pain and result, and how can I solve for each one of those individual pain points? Now, the last thing that we have to think about when it comes to offer, okay, is our unique mechanism, okay? Because there's a lot of ways in which we can actually solve this outcome for this specific niche. For example, if it's hotels and their outcome is that they want to raise their occupancy, we could do SEO, we could do Facebook ads, we could do content, we could do massive billboards, we could do all kinds of different things. But your mechanism is your unique way of solving that. So in my case, I use what I call the Social Accelerator program. Okay, and it's just like my unique name that I've given my program that I have seen gives clients the best results through utilizing social media content, boosting ads, and running retargets. So I'm not going to get into the logistics of what exactly that looks like, because that's my unique offer. But when you're building out your offer, just to give you kind of a sense of what that would look like, essentially, we're answering these 3 questions, okay? So if we put 3 fill in the blanks here, we have first niche. What is the exact client that we're looking to work with? So in this case, maybe it's like luxury boutique resorts. Okay. Maybe that's our specific niche. Our outcome is that they want to increase their occupancy, or in other words, get more people to book with them, right? And our unique mechanism would, in my case, be the social accelerator program. In your case, it would probably be something different, or you'd have to figure out how to exactly solve that gap in a unique way, right? So how I would state this as a sentence would be, I help luxury boutique resorts increase their occupancy through my social accelerator program. And that becomes my offer. Cool. So that's stage one, and that's amazing. That's going to take you a little bit to really hone in. And mind you, this offer is not meant for you to absolutely crush it. It's not really meant for you to make tons of profit off of. What this is meant to do is get you your first few little case studies and get your feet wet so that you can get experience points so that you can then build up to the point where you can charge real money. Okay. So now that we have an offer, we can move on to stage number 2, which is we need to have proof. We need to have proof that this offer actually works for clients. And this is another place where a lot of people go wrong, is that they don't actually understand that if they don't have proof that they can get results for clients, that they likely won't want to pay for them, right? So how do we get proof? Well, we actually need to get out in the real world and do stuff for clients. And I'm not talking like, free collabs or like, hey, I'll stay at your place for 3 nights and maybe I'll give you a few Instagram reels or something like that. A lot of people do that. I personally did that, and I can, with 100% confidence, tell you that that is not the way to do it. It's a much better way. So what I would recommend doing is actually finding 5 of your core clients, okay? And these core clients would be these people here. And what we want to do is actually do what's called spec work, okay? So we're going to create content around something that they actually need, that we think will actually help them achieve the goal that they're after, right? Because again, we're trying to solve the gap here. So we reach out, or we create content for 5, maybe even 10 clients. We do that spec, we give it to them. We don't expect anything in return. Some of these people might actually want to pay you. And if they do, that's amazing. That's great. Sometimes that does happen. Sometimes they'll completely ignore you. And in that case, that's completely fine because you don't have any intrinsic value to them because you have never actually done a project, okay? But in any case, this is going to be free work that you're doing for them. So once you have done those 5, chances are you'll have the ability to get at least 2 to 3 what's called a case study, okay? And what a case study is just proof that you are able to get the goal here with your unique mechanism. Okay. Now, what's comprised in a case study is basically where the client was, why they hired you, what the results were as a result of hiring you, and then usually a testimonial, some kind of quote, and then some example campaign assets. And you compile that all into, basically a 1-page landing page on your website. And now you have that big claim that you can make to leverage to go get more clients. Now, at this point, we've gone through stage 1 and stage 2, and we haven't made a dime yet. So you're probably like, well, Nash, when do we get to the actual money? Well, some people, to be honest, that I work with do start making money at the case study stage. But if you haven't yet, stage 3 is where we actually start being able to charge real money. So this brings us to the third point, which is we need to get some customers now, right? So we need to get some client acquisition going. Now, what I like to do is an outbound method that I call precision prospecting. Now, the reason it's called precision prospecting is because you can identify exactly who that core client is that we identified again up here. And we can identify exactly what result we're going to get them. So we're not just throwing random, whatever into the ether. So that's why I like outbound, because you can be very specific on who you're talking to and how you're targeting it. Now, what I like to use is what's called the Trojan Horse email method. Now, let me finish that. Okay. Now, how the Trojan Horse email method works is, if you're familiar with Trojan Horse, essentially a bunch of soldiers got into this horse statue, got into the city gates of their enemy. Everyone was like, oh, this is fine. And then at the last second, when they least expected it, they jumped out and it was a surprise attack. Now, obviously, we're not going to attack our clients, but what we will do is actually lead with value. So clients actually want to engage with us. And then once they are on the hook and they trust us, then we're able to pitch them. And it doesn't feel like a pitch because they're like, wow, this person actually wants to help me. So let's break this down. How it works essentially is once we have our case studies up here, and we know exactly what client we work with, what results we get them, and how we do it, and we have proof of it, we can reach out to our ideal clients by finding their contact informations, right? Whether that's email, whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's Instagram or Facebook, it doesn't matter. You just want to pick 1 to 2 of those channels. You want to reach out to the decision maker, and essentially what you're going to do is offer them a value video. You're going to offer them a video that says, hey, we just helped this client that's exactly like you, okay, achieve the result that you're probably trying to achieve. And we recently did it, and I did a breakdown video that shows you exactly how you could do this for your company as well. Is it cool if I send it over? Okay, so in this case, it might be like, hey, I just helped Marriott on Kauai increase their occupancy by 10%. Here's an example of what we did. I just did a breakdown video kind of showing you how you could implement it as well. Would you be down for me to send it? Okay, so you send the value video, and guess what? Assuming that your case study is good and that your value is good, they're going to want to jump on a call with you to discuss how they can implement this system into their own business utilizing the strategies that you broke down. Now, on the call, you're going to walk them through what I call the target framework, okay? And through that framework, you're going to be able to identify exactly where their problem is, which if we've done our homework, right, it's probably this thing up here, okay? What their problem is, what they've tried in the past, okay? Why that hasn't worked, so that we can identify the gap. And then ultimately, the mechanism that is going to get them better results. And when we take them through that process on the call, they will actually, surprise, surprise, want to pay us money because it looks like we actually know what we're talking about, as opposed to just saying, hey, I'll shoot some photos for you, okay? Now, what you charge is completely dependent on your skill level as well as your comfortability in terms of being able to pitch these calls. So I would recommend, if you're starting out and you have those case studies, not charging anything less than $1,000. Now, I'll be honest, for my program, okay, depending on the deliverables, I charge anywhere from, on the low end, like $4,000 all the way up to I've charged $40,000 for a project before. And my clients have even charged $50,000 for a project. So I'm not saying you charge that right off the bat, but I am saying that you stay at a minimum of $1,000, because anything less than that is probably not going to be worth your time, and is probably not going to be perceived as valuable by the client. And 100% would say, if you have these case studies and you actually did a good job for clients in the past, you should not be taking free stays or free product exchanges or any kind of thing like that, unless it actually helps you get an insane case study or insane testimonial that you think will help you leverage to get business in the future. But in general, I wouldn't recommend doing it. So now that we have our first client, okay, we continue doing our Trojan Horse email strategy, and I would recommend doing at least 25 outreach per day, okay? Now, this in the beginning might take you a while. It might take you a few hours. But once you get it dialed in, once you kind of have found something that works, you can knock out 25 in less than an hour for sure. And eventually you can actually hire a VA to do it, which is kind of like the 201 version of it. So that brings us to level 4, or step number 4, which is once we have kind of gotten comfortable charging somebody, now we can kind of increase the amount that we're charging. But the only way we can do that is by getting client results. And the way that I like to do it is by doing or becoming what I like to say is a growth creator. Now, a growth creator is different than just a regular creator because obviously it's in the name, right? We're trying to cause growth. The way that I do that is through the Social Accelerator program that you can see up here. And the way that you would do it is through your specific offer, your specific mechanism in which you get them the core result that they're after, okay? So just to give you kind of a breakdown of what this might look like for you, this is not like a full offer pricing video. I have other videos like that you can check out on the channel. But just to give you kind of a logistical overview of what this might look like. So I typically, at a minimum, will charge people between $4,000 to $8,000, and that's on a monthly basis for a content retainer. Okay, and this is anywhere from usually 10 videos to maybe 15, somewhere in there. And that is kind of the difference here. Now, it's not just content that's a difference, but it's actually the ability to use content in paid advertising, meaning that they get a lot more reach out of it. Now, the great thing about this is that usually companies are going to be they're going to have to pay a production company of some sort, probably anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 or $50,000 to create ad creatives for them. Okay. Now, the problem with that is that they don't even know if this ad creative will actually convert. So they end up spending this money or investing this money into something that is an unknown. It's a massive risk. Whereas with this program, they can have 10 to 15 videos on a consistent basis, and they can actually see and test what actually works, and whatever does, they can boost as a post. Now, this is what I would charge up front, this 4K, and then I would charge individual what's called a license fee, okay, for anything, I don't know if that's how you spell license, but anything that is that they want to run as an ad, or if they want to use it on the website or something like that, I would charge an additional fee above and beyond what the creative fee is. Now, for this top tier, I usually include up to 2 licenses per month in this top tier package here. So that's kind of the benefit of that. Now, from a timeline perspective, just to break down what this would look like, typically, you can knock out a retainer like this, which is like 10 videos or so. You can knock it out in 1 to 2 days of shooting, okay? And then a day of editing. And, the 201 version is that you hire an editor so that you don't even have to do the editing, which means that realistically, this shoot would have about 3 days of effort on your part. Now, that means that you could easily squeeze in 5 of these types of clients on a monthly basis. Okay, so 5 of these at $4,000 per month is looking at $20K. Okay, $20K, and that's recurring. That's like a salary. That means you get paid that every single month. And assuming that you follow a strategy and you actually have the ability to get clients results, then you're getting paid this $20K recurring every single month. And you can actually get paid a lot more than that because, again, we talked about license fees, which I think licenses with an S. But you can charge license fees, so you can even charge a couple hundred to even a couple $1,000s more than this baseline, depending on where they want to use the content. And ultimately, that is the 4-step process here from going to 0 to 20,000 a month, starting from absolute scratch. Now, if you just saw this and you're like, wow, Nash, I really wish that you could help me implement this into my business, I actually have a one-to-one mentorship program where we actually build out this entire system together to put it into your business so that you can scale to a minimum of this right here. And you can see some client results on the YouTube channel that kind of verify that. But if you're interested in that, I have a link in the description below to apply for a free game plan call where we'll ask you some questions about your business as well as where you're trying to get to, see if you're a fit. And if so, we'll extend the opportunity to actually work with us personally one-to-one to build out this entire system into your business. So if you're interested, links in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.